You wake before dawn, which, if we're being honest, is already more disciplined than most people had in 5th-10th century Tenochtitlan. The sky above is still a deep, velvety blue, and the stars linger like gossiping neighbors, reluctant to leave. From your reed mat, you rise quietly, careful not to step on your cousin's foot again. She didn't speak to you for 2 days the last time. You grab your cotton cloak, still faintly damp from yesterday's rain, and slip outside. The city is already breathing. You hear it in the soft clatter of wooden sandals on basalt stone walkways, in the rustling of woven baskets being loaded with everything from squashes to singing birds. Tenochtitlan doesn't wake up gently. It unfurls like a scroll, inked with trade and chatter and the occasional whiff of roasted cacao. Somewhere nearby, someone sneezes. Another person starts a chant. A dog barks, though stubby, nearly hairless. Ones dissolute squintly, who seem permanently skeptical of everyone's life choices. The world here is textured, feathers, shells, obsidian, sun. A small canoe is waiting at the canal, your uncle already seated in the front. You climb in, and the water laps gently against the boat as he rows. The canal smells of whetstone and algae and yesterday's tamales. Birds flit overhead, low and lazy, uninterested in ambition. You are headed to the grand market of Tlacotlatliloco, the legendary Aztec marketplace where tens of thousands come daily to sell, haggle, flirt, lose money, find lovers, and absolutely get swindled if they don't know how to price a gourd. By midday, it becomes a cathedral of commerce and chaos one. Scholar called it more organized than a Spanish courtroom, though we might politely add that the bar wasn't too high. A reminder, you probably won't make it through this day. The sensory overload alone could short-circuit a modern brain. But no worries, you're here to float, not to hustle. This is a walk, not a conquest. And if you're enjoying the ambiance already, tap that like button gently, like placing a cacao bean on a lacquered dish. Maybe subscribe too. It helps more dreamers find their way here. And leave a comment telling us your local time. Are you winding down or just getting started? Now let's ease into tonight's journey. The market reveals itself slowly. At first, it's just the sound of it, humans talking over humans. Children arguing over tortillas, the hum of haggling in Nahuatl. So rhythmic it could be mistaken for a lullaby if it weren't so passionately detailed. By the time you reach the causeway leading to the square, the sun is glinting off the temple pyramids and whitewashed buildings. The lake behind the city glimmers too, a great silver mirror lying to everyone's face about how peaceful it is. Here's your first major fact of the day. Tlatelolco wasn't just a market. It was the market. Historians estimate that up to 60,000 people gathered here daily. That's more than a modern football stadium, and with significantly fewer nachos. The stalls are arranged in broad, thoughtful avenues. It's not just a chaotic bazaar, it's planned. Ceramics over here, textiles over there, medicinal herbs a little further on. A kind of architectural choreography unfolds with each step you take. The ground is packed earth and crushed shell, soft enough not to kill your knees. You pass rows of beans, red, black, yellow, speckled, and rows of smiling vendors ready to tell you which ones improve digestion, which ones strengthen blood, and which ones make your dreams more vivid. Whether that's true or not, historians still debate. A woman nearby is selling live turkeys. One is giving her a look that suggests revolution. You walk faster. Somewhere down the next row, a man with long braids is offering samples of a drink. Made from fermented maguey. It smells like sour promises and feels like a headache waiting to happen. He offers you a sip anyway, calling it the drink of the gods. You politely decline. You've met gods before. They're unreliable. Here's a cultural tidbit you didn't expect. People here use cacao beans as currency. Actual beans. You can buy a rabbit for 10 or a day's worth of firewood for 20. Just don't drop your wallet in the lake unless you want to explain to your wife why all your money sprouted into trees. From somewhere nearby. You hear the ringing of a conch shell. Someone just sealed a good trade, or someone dropped a pot. Hard to tell. You brush past a woven mat displaying obsidian blades, each one sharper than your cousin's passive-aggressive comments. Next to them, a seller grinds red pigment with a kasim with a kinla. Small stone, the paste vivid as spilled sunset. You don't ask what it's made from. You already know. Bugs. It's bugs. But the dye is worth more than gold. You reach the produce lane next bright green chayotes, bunches of amaranth, and yes, avocados. Glorious, round, velvety avocados, sacred to many. To you, they just look smug. They know their worth. You pause. Someone hands you a slice of something wrapped in a corn husk. It's sweet. You nod in thanks, though you still have no idea what it was. Possibly frog. Possibly not. You've made peace with the ambiguity. And still, the market unfolds before you. A group of teenagers is laughing near the fishmonger's stall. One of them accidentally steps into a basket of tiny shrimp. The shrimps look deeply offended. You take a breath, deep and quiet. The air is filled with chili, lime, sweat, dust, and something ancient, something ceremonial, lurking just below the surface of this very ordinary day. And now the sun is climbing. You squint. The brightness feels too real. You're not ready for everything this day will show you, but onward you go. Your next stop, naturally, is the textiles district. You can tell you've arrived because the air has changed. It's no longer rich with roasted corn and damp reeds. Now it smells like cotton, dye, and slightly nervous sheep. The stalls here are a riot of color. Cloaks in deep reds, tunics embroidered with tiny birds, shawls woven so tightly they could stop a spear. You run your fingers along one, and it's smoother than anything woven in Europe at the time. Not that the Europeans would admit it. They were busy discovering how buttons worked. A teenage boy tries to sell you a headband. You tell him you're just browsing. He squints at you. He knows. Everyone says that. Here's your major fact of this section. Cotton in the Aztec world was highly prized, but not available to everyone. Commoners wore coarse fibers, while the elite got the good stuff spun so fine you could mistake it for silk, and many people paid their taxes in cloth. Yes, taxes. Even paradise wants its cut. You pass a woman dyeing fabric with cochineal, that same bug pigment from earlier. She tells you it takes thousands of crushed insects to make just 1 ounce. You consider asking if that's ethical. Then remember the philosophical limitations of 15th century economic policy. Obscure fact time. There was a whole category of professional cloth inspectors who would verify the quality of garments sold. Here, If your tunic didn't meet the standards, sorry, back of the stall. Maybe try selling frogs instead. One merchant proudly shows off a ceremonial cape embroidered with tiny golden beads. You ask what it's for. He tells you it's worn during the feast of the flayed god. You decide not to press further. A small child walks by, dragging a toy made of clay and sticks. It squeaks with each rotation like a toddler's protest in sonic form. The child looks delighted. You feel strangely comforted. The sky above is shifting now, the deep blue paling into something warmer. Sunlight flickers off copper bowls and beads catching in puddles and eyes and obsidian knives. A breeze drifts through. It smells like river reeds and toasted corn. You step into a side lane where artisans carve jade and basalt. The sound of chiseling is meditative, like the city. Breathing through stone, one carver beckons you over. He's working on a figurine of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. His hands are steady, his brow furrowed. He tells you he's been working on it for 3 months. You nod reverently, even though it sort of looks like a parrot fell down a flight of stairs. Art is subjective. Another vendor nearby is hawking sandals made from yucca fiber. You consider buying a pair until you remember you don't actually have any money. Or, more accurately, no cacao beans. Your pockets are full of lint, curiosity, and one smooth stone that may or may not be a lucky charm. Back in the main square, a group of dancers begins to gather. You hear the first beat of a drumlow, slow, like a heart thinking very carefully about its next move. This part of the market is close to the ceremonial plaza, and the air feels heavier here, sacred, or maybe just humid. You spot a man selling carved whistles that sound like jaguar roars. He demonstrates. Several birds take flight in terror. A child screams. He beams with pride. Scholars still debate whether these stalls counted as formal religious spaces or simply existed next to them by habit. Like how coffee shops mysteriously appear outside churches, you sit on a stone ledge. Rest your eyes. Listen to the layers of sound. Somewhere, someone's laughing. Somewhere else, someone's singing. You are small here, and the market is eternal. You probably won't remember how you got here, or how the day ends, but that's all right. There's more to see yet. You're still on that stone ledge, caught somewhere between dreaming and sitting, when a pair of old men start arguing over a squash. It's a large one, striped, proud, aggressively orange, and apparently it's worth 15 cacao beans. One man claims it's divine, the other claims it's hollow. You quietly root for the squash. The market is warming up now. The crowds are thicker, the smells richer, and your sense of direction, well, it's gone. Utterly gone. You're surrounded by painted stalls, flapping banners, and about a dozen women selling nearly identical dried herbs with nearly identical advice. This one will help you sleep unless it doesn't. You nod and move on. There's something dreamlike about this place, a bazaar that pulses like a living creature. Every turn leads to something both strange and comforting. You follow the smell of maize to a long corridor of food vendors. And now we come to one of the greatest joys of Tlatelolco, street food. Tamales, tacos, roasted squash blossoms, maize drinks, and stews bubbling with whatever animal was slowest this morning. A woman with wise eyes and sharp elbows sells hoot-lacoche corn smut, essentially a fungus, but somehow also a delicacy. You try a bite. It tastes like smoky mushrooms and very bad decisions. You immediately want more. Major fact of the section. Maize was not just food, it was identity. The Aztecs believed humans were made from maize dough molded by the gods. So yes, that tortilla in your hand, it's a little poetic. You take another bite. Obscure tidbit. Salt was so important in this world that people were professionally trained as salt workers. The best salt came from lakes to the north, carefully harvested and shaped into bricks. There's even a vendor here selling miniature salt sculptures. You consider buying a tiny salty llama, then remember no cacao. Near a bubbling pot, a mother is feeding her toddler a mix of beans and ground squash seeds. The child wears a feather behind one ear and a stubborn expression. You make eye contact. The toddler does not blink. The midday sun is high now. It throws long shadows and sharp edges across the square. You pass a man juggling clay bowls while reciting poetry. Someone drops a pineapple. A dog steals a tamale. Life moves on. There's a brief commotion near the south corner of the market. You wander over, because of course you do, and discover a group of people gathered around a storyteller. His voice rises like the wind before a storm. He speaks of giant snakes and hidden caves, of mountains that walk and gods who weep when no one watches. You realize, somewhere deep in your bones, that this is how history really survives, not in stone or ink, but in voices that tell stories just well enough to become part of the listener. You stand for a while, listen, absorb, and just as quickly the moment passes. The crowd thins. The storyteller coughs and asks for a cacao bean or two. You pretend to look distracted. As you drift away, a boy runs past you holding 3 frogs in a basket. They look vaguely resigned. You give them a respectful nod. Your stomach is full now. Your feet are starting to notice the uneven stones. Your eyes linger on a group of vendors arranging their goods into careful pyramids, piles of red chilies, black beans, green squashes. The colors are not just beautiful, they're symbolic. Every item here means something. Every bowl of seeds, every gourd of drink, every stack of tortillas. And here's where historians get fussy again. Some argue that the marketplace wasn't just economic, it was also educational. A child could learn the entire structure of their society just by walking from one row to another. You look around, wondering what the market is teaching you. Probably, don't trust frogs in baskets. And also, always ask how spicy something is before eating it. Another breeze rolls in. You watch a line of priests walk past, heads bowed, each carrying a bundle of copal incense wrapped in fine cloth. The smoke follows them like a question. Your eyes close, just for a moment. You're not tired, you're just slowing. Just letting yourself sink into this place. When your eyes open again, the market has shifted. The shadows are longer now, and the light is golden, stretching across faces and fabrics with a lazy hand. You feel it in your shoulders, that soft, late afternoon slump that says you've wandered enough, and also don't stop yet. This time, you follow the sound of bells. They're not ringing for worship, these are trade bells, shaken by merchants selling things that shine. You've entered the jewelry quarter. It's quieter here somehow. People speak in softer tones, and there's less haggling, more nodding, more admiration. One vendor has a display of polished turquoise in the shape of a jaguar paw. Another holds up a string of tiny gold discs, each one the size of a sunflower seed, each one catching the sunlight like a secret. Here's your major fact. Gold, to the Aztecs, wasn't really about wealth. It was the excrement of the gods, shiny. Yes, but spiritually secondary to jade. Jade was what you gave to deities. Gold was for flair. One elderly woman shows you a nose ring shaped like a hummingbird. It's dazzling. She tells you it's meant to bring courage in battle, or at least make you look fabulous while fleeing. Obscure cultural tidbit for you. Earlobe stretching was in vogue here long before it hit modern cafes and tattoo parlors. A well-stretched ear showed status. The larger the lobe, the more respected the wearer. You pass a nobleman with earlobes so wide they could probably double as coin purses. You stop to admire a vendor's painted gourd bowls. Each one is lacquered in a deep red with swirling designs of snakes and rain clouds. She offers to personalize one for you, but when you admit you have no cacao, she just pats your shoulder kindly and offers you a smile instead. From the edge of the jewelry stalls, you can see a group of scribes gathered under a shaded canopy. They sit on reed mats with brushes and bark paper books, writing with quiet intensity. One of them dips a quill into black ink and begins drawing a stylized bird. You move closer. This isn't just idle sketching. These are tlaquelos, artists, and record keepers. They write in images, preserving not just events but philosophies. You spot a codex page filled with fish, maize, stars, and oddly, a man arguing with a dot. No one knows what that means. Scholars still debate it. A scribe invites you to try painting a glyph. You hesitate, then pick up the brush and draw something that vaguely resembles a mountain. Or maybe a potato. Everyone nods politely. You've done enough. The smell of incense floats in again. You turn and see that the temple plaza is now illuminated in amber light. It glows like a story being remembered. Back in the market, a man is playing a flute made from a vulture bone. The sound is hollow, strange, and deeply beautiful. Children gather around him, swaying like tiny trees. Someone offers him a roasted cricket. He accepts with dignity. You meander toward a shaded corner where an old couple sells books, not European books, but folded codices made of bark and leather. Each one is handwritten, painted, passed down. You run your fingers across the surface of one. It smells of dust and ash and something sacred. A soft voice beside you says, "That one tells the story of a city built on the back of a turtle." You nod. That seems entirely plausible. The sky above is turning rose and lavender now. You see birds flying home across the lake, their wings casting long shadows across rooftops. A dog barks sleepily. You sit on a low wall and watch the last. Waves of the market swell and settle. Vendors begin to pack their wares. Baskets are loaded. Canoes are filled. Someone drops a gourd. It bounces twice, then rolls to a stop against your foot. You pick it up, place it back on a cart. The city is preparing to sleep, and so are you. But there are still a few corners of this world you haven't wandered. Let's not rush just yet. You rise slowly, joints cracking like ancient wood in the breeze. The market is quieting, yes, but it never quite sleeps. Not fully. It's more like a great cat still and purring, but twitching every so often, keeping one eye open in case a rabbit wanders by. Now you drift toward the animal stalls, tucked near the edge of the market square where the land brushes up against the canal again. The air smells different here: fur, feathers, wet hay, and the strange tang of bird seed warmed by the sun. The stalls themselves are cages woven from reeds, small stone enclosures, and in some cases, just a rope tied to a tree stump and the fading hope that a monkey won't bolt. You spot deer, parrots, ducks, snakes, dogs, and something that might be a badger, though it's staring at you like it owes you money. Here's your major historical fact. Animals weren't just food or pets. They were offerings, messengers, even omens. A jaguar could be sacred, a hummingbird, a divine courier. And those hairless dogs you keep seeing, the Xoloitzcuintli? They were believed to guide souls through the afterlife. Also, they're warmer than they look. One seller is balancing a basket. A frog's on her hip and shouting prices like she's announcing a royal edict. Another carries a pair of turkeys tucked under her arms, their wings flapping with the slow despair of animals who have seen too much. A boy runs up and offers to sell you a cricket, just one. It's in a tiny clay jar with a cork on top. He assures you it sings every night and only sometimes escapes. You nearly say yes before remembering you still have no cacao, and also no tolerance for rogue insects. Obscure cultural tidbit. The Aztecs had a kind of pet trade for exotic animals, especially in the capital. Monkeys, eagles, even jaguars were sometimes kept by nobles. And there was an entire zoo in Moctezuma's palace, complete with caretakers and dietitians for snakes. Yes, snake dietitians. That's either dedication or someone misunderstood a job description. One vendor lets you hold a small green parrot. Its claws are cold, and it blinks with mild disdain. You try whispering to it. It squawks. You feel Judge Dot somewhere nearby. A dog is snoring deeply. You sit beside it on a flat stone and close your eyes for a moment. Not because you're tired, of course, just ... contemplative. The wind ruffles your hair. You think you hear distant drumming, but it might just be your own pulse, slowed to the fende rhythm of this world. You open your eyes to see an older man gently coaxing a group of turtles into a shallow basin of water. One of the turtles makes a sound like a sneeze. The man nods proudly. You ask him if he sells them. He replies, "No, I listen to them. They know the weather." You decide not to question it. After all, the turtle did sneeze. Historians still debate how deeply these animal markets intertwined with religion and daily ritual. Were they truly sacred, or just another Tuesday's business? As always, the answer is probably yes. You stand once more and move on. The animals stay behind, blinking slowly in the fading light. You take the long way back toward the center of the market, tracing the edge of the canal where the boats are now fewer, the shouting quieter, and the air thicker with dusk. This part of the square is slower, now populated mostly by elders, daydreamers, and the occasional half-asleep merchant who hasn't yet accepted the day is ending. You blend right in as you pass under a hanging awning of woven maguey fibers. The smell of wet stone greets you, mixed with the unmistakable fragrance of roasting cacao. Ah, yes, it's time for one of the great pleasures of this world, chocolate. Here's your major fact. Cacao was not just food. It was ritual, currency, medicine, and according to some a symbol of blood. Warriors drank it before battle. Nobles drank it before marriage. Everyone else drank it whenever they could get their hands on it. The vendor in front of you is grinding cacao beans with a smooth stone roller. She adds chili, cornmeal, and honey, pouring the resulting mixture into a painted gourd. She hands it to you with a wink. You take a sip. It is bitter, thick, warm, and electric. You feel your heart beat louder. The vendor watches your face closely and then says, "That one has flower pollen. You'll dream in color tonight." You thank her. She doesn't charge you. Maybe she knows you're just passing through. Obscure tidbit: cacao was often served frothy, whisked until foam formed on top using a kind of wooden baton. The foam was considered the best part, like the crema on an espresso, but sacred. And without the overpriced cup, you wander over to a low platform where musicians are tuning their instruments. One plays a tapanastli, a hollow wooden drum carved like a crocodile. Another holds a flute shaped like a bird's beak. Together, they begin to play a melody that loops like smoke curling through trees. A dancer steps into the clearing, adorned with feathers, gold, and shells. Her movements are fluid and slow, and her feet barely touch the ground. She's not performing. She's remembering. You sit cross-legged on the ground. Others join you. Children, elders, a sleepy merchant still holding a squash. The music deepens. The dancer becomes a blur of rhythm and color. You're not sure how long you sit there. The market continues around you, fading, folding, settling into its evening self. A boy walks past carrying a reed basket filled with tiny carved skulls made of amaranth dough and honey. He gives you one, smiling without explanation. You chew. It's slowly sweet, nutty, slightly unsettling. From somewhere near the canal, someone starts singing a song about the rain god, Tlaloc. The lyrics are simple, repetitive, and somehow hypnotic. You hum along, not understanding the words but feeling the shape of them in your bones. And still, the night grows. Shadows stretch across the stalls like great tired fingers. The last of the traders pack up their goods. A woman sweeps dried petals into a neat pile. A dog limps past, tail high, face smug. Historians say the Tlatelolco market was the heart of Aztec life, more than temples, more than palaces. It was where lives were lived, goods exchanged, futures shaped. And tonight, as the city exhales, you understand. You don't leave the market. You let it close around you, quiet as a curtain, soft as sleep. You drift now, not walking, not standing still, just moving in the way leaves do when the wind can't make up its mind. The sky above has deepened into a dusky violet, and here, in this quiet outer ring of the marketplace, torches begin to flicker to life. The flamelight dances against the pale stone walls and reed awnings, casting long, rippling shadows like half-forgotten dreams. You are in the artisan quarter now, where the world is shaped not with haggling, but with hands. The air smells of wood smoke, wet clay, and something floral that might be from the bundles of marigolds piled in a corner stall. Or it might be from the woman who just passed you with 10 of them tucked into her hair. Either way, you want to follow the scent forever. Your feet take you to a potter's stall, where the wheels are still spinning slowly, like the market refusing to stop even when no one's pushing it. A man squats beside a nearly finished bowl, trimming its lip with a shard of obsidian so carefully you'd think he was performing surgery. You say nothing. He says nothing. But he nods, and you nod. And that is enough. Major fact incoming. Aztec pottery wasn't just practical. It was political, religious, and downright poetic. Whole stories were painted onto jugs and bowls, often with imagery you now find here: serpents, sun gods, ears of corn dancing across red slip. Some vessels were designed not to hold water, but to hold meaning. One woman invites you to press your thumb into a soft ball of clay. She smiles when you do, and then folds it back into her palm, like nothing happened. Maybe it didn't, or maybe she just erased your mark from time. Either way, you don't mind. And here's a fun, obscure tidbit. Aztec artisans sometimes used crushed bone or volcanic ash in their ceramic glazes, which, you have to admit, gives new meaning to the term earthy undertones. You continue. Wandering, a sculptor is chiseling a block of basalt with quiet focus. The half-formed figure inside the stone looks like it's trying to escape. He glances up at you briefly and says he doesn't want to be a rain god. He wants to be a monkey. You nod politely and back away. You've learned not to interfere with artistic differences between deities and their carvers. Nearby, someone's weaving a mat out of reeds. The pattern is intricate, geometric, and hypnotic, like a maze that doesn't lead anywhere on purpose. You crouch beside her, watching the motion of her fingers. She never breaks rhythm, even as she tells you it's for a wedding or a funeral. She's not sure yet. Historians still debate the role of artisans in the Aztec economy, whether they were formally trained or passed knowledge through generations informally. Either way, their hands made cities. Their fingers held the future. Coiled into thread and etched into clay dot, you find a quiet bench beneath a jacaranda tree, its blossoms whispering in the breeze. A little girl walks past holding a clay flute shaped like a rabbit. She plays 3 off-key notes. It is, somehow, the best concert you've heard all day. The stars begin to appear above, slowly at first, then confidently, as if they finally remembered their cues. A pair of old women light small incense burners and set them along the edges of the path. Copal smoke wafts gently upward, catching the starlight like lace. You sit for a long time, not waiting, just being, and in the stillness, you begin to notice the way the firelight pools like melted gold, the slow roll of canoe lanterns down the canal, the smell of fresh masa and old stories. Nothing calls you forward now, but something still draws you on. By now, the market is more memory than moment. You walk beneath the last open stalls, most of them empty now, the owners gone home or asleep behind burlap curtains. The fires are low. The laughter is softer. The frogs are back singing in the canal with a confidence that suggests they know how the world ends and aren't particularly impressed. You follow the flickering path of torchlight toward a structure on the edge of the square. It's low and wide, made of dark stone with carvings etched deep into its flanks. This is a comicac, a school for the sons of nobles. But don't worry, no one's asking you to take a quiz. The door is open. A teacher stands just inside, arms crossed, watching. A group of young boys recite chants in perfect rhythm. Their voices echo off the walls, rising and falling like tide against stone. One boy stumbles, the others continue. No one laughs. Your major historical fact. The Aztecs valued education highly, and formal schooling was mandatory for nobles and commoners. Two separate systems, the Kamakac for noble children and the Telpokali for the sons of farmers, artisans, and warriors. The curriculum included astronomy, history, rhetoric, ritual, and of course, how not to anger the gods, which is arguably still a useful skill. The teacher looks up and sees you. You expect him to shoo you away, but he simply gestures toward a bench. You sit quietly as the chants continue. A girl passes outside, humming to herself, spinning in place as if trying to turn into a breeze. Obscure tidbit: one exercise in Aztec. Schools involved memorizing vast genealogies, dozens of generations recited in order, not unlike a modern student cramming the periodic table. Except this table included jaguar warriors and corn deities. The chanting stops. The students file out. Some yawn. One tries very hard not to itch his leg. A few of them glance at you, but no one says a word. They disappear into the night like threads pulled gently from cloth. You walk slowly now, your footsteps soft against the packed earth. You find a quiet corner where 3 young girls are gathered around an elder. She's braiding their hair while telling a story about a woman who married a star. The girls are giggling. You can't quite follow the tale, but you find yourself smiling anyway. From behind a nearby wall, a rooster crows, not because it's morning, but because it's confused. Or possibly dramatic. A man appears carrying a small drum. He begins to play a slow, steady rhythm. A few others gather with him, forming a circle. No ceremony, no grand announcement. Just the beginning of something old. A woman starts to sing in a voice low and rich as damp earth. You don't understand the words, but you understand the tone. Gratitude, release, home. Historians still debate. How much of Aztec life was performance versus tradition? Were these nightly songs formal rites or just comforting habits? The answer, of course, is both. The line between sacred and daily was never all that rigid here. You sit near the circle, your legs crossed, your body loose. The night presses gently in from all sides, not heavy, not stifling, just close. Like a thick blanket pulled over a restless sleeper. Above, the stars have multiplied. The lake reflects them now, shimmering like another sky trying to tell its own story. The last of the market sounds fade behind you. A pot clinks softly as it's stacked away. A voice mumbles something in a dream. A child laughs in their sleep. And then, just frogs. Just water. Just the slow hush of a city exhaling. You close your eyes. The story's still going. And so are you. Section 9. The edge of the market leads you toward a quieter causeway. A path that stretches out over the lake like a ribbon of volcanic stone. It's the kind of road that leads somewhere specific, but tonight, you don't really care where. You just want to walk. The water beside you laps against the pilings. Moonlight skims across the lake's surface, broken only by the gentle silhouette of a canoe gliding in the distance. Somewhere out there, someone's still paddling home. Or maybe they just like this solitude. Either way, they're your kind of person. Your footsteps echo in a way that makes you feel oddly important. Like you're the star of a silent play being performed for an audience of ducks. You pass by small canal-side shrines, modest ones. Just a few stones and a painted figure of a rain god here, a fertility goddess there. Each shrine holds a little offering, a pinch of maize, a clay bead, a tiny feather tucked under a smooth river stone. None of them feel fancy, but every one of them feels respected. Here's your major fact. The Aztec Empire had an incredibly dense and sophisticated system of causeways and canals. Tenochtitlan, built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, was connected to the mainland by 3 grand causeways, raised roads over water, flanked by aqueducts, markets, and sometimes even guardhouses. Venice was still figuring things out. Meanwhile, the Aztecs had rush-hour canoe traffic. Tonight, this causeway is almost entirely yours. You stop at a small platform where someone's left a stack of unused reed mats. You sit. The stone is still warm from the day, and the stars above are multiplied by their reflection in the lake below. Like the heavens are holding a mirror to admire themselves. Obscure cultural tidbit for you. Among lakeside traders, it was considered bad luck to point at the moon. Some believed it could cause a wound to appear on your finger. Others believed the moon might take offense and pull the tide from beneath your boat. Either way, you tuck your hands in your cloak just in case. You lean back against a low pillar and listen. Behind you, the city breathes distant drums, soft flutes. The occasional curse from someone who stubbed their toe in the dark in front of you. Water. Stillness. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, it feels full. Like something is watching over you, but not in a creepy way. More like a tired parent making sure you've eaten. A dragonfly drifts past your face. You do not flinch. You are now officially part of the landscape. You stay there longer than you mean to. Time folds a little here. Historians still debate how Aztecs measured nighttime hours without clocks. The answer, perhaps, is that they didn't need to. When the water cools and the frogs go quiet and your bones begin to feel heavy, you just know. So eventually, you rise again. Not because you want to, but because the night wants to show you more. Section 10. You return to the city not through gates or grand plazas, but through the maze-like backstreets that lace around. Tenochtitlan like embroidery. These are the alleys where real-life lives, between woven door curtains, under half-swept thresholds, behind the smell of fish stew that never quite leaves the air. The streets are narrower here, softened by years of footsteps and laughter and the occasional dropped tamale. The torches here burn lower, casting sleepy golden light on walls of adobe and painted plaster. You pass murals, some bright and fresh, others faded into whispers. One shows a woman grinding maize beside a god who is very clearly judging her posture. Your major fact for this section. Tenochtitlan was a city of neighborhoods, called Calpulli. Each one had its own school, temple, communal lands, and leaders. It wasn't just a metropolis. It was a federation of small, interwoven communities. You didn't just live in Tenochtitlan. You lived in your Calpulli, and it lived in you. You see signs of that here. An old man sits by his doorstep, weaving a net from maguey fiber. His fingers move slowly but confidently, like they've done this through war and peace and grandchildren. You nod as you pass. He grunts in a tone that could mean hello, goodbye, or please don't scare my chickens. Obscure tidbit, in some Calpulli, neighbors were obligated to help build each other's houses. It wasn't considered generosity, it was civic duty. Kind of like borrowing your friend's truck to move furniture, except it took a week and involved volcanic rock. You pass a public steam bath, a temazcal. You can't see inside, but the heat is thick and fragrant with herbs. Steam curls from the roof vents like the building is sighing. You wonder what it's like in there, packed with people and stories and secrets that rise and vanish into the vapor. You hear music again, different. Now not ceremonial, just two teenagers on a rooftop playing flutes and trying not to laugh. One is clearly better than the other. Neither of them care. A few children run past you barefoot, chasing a wooden hoop with sticks, their laughter ricocheting off the walls. One trips, gets up, keeps going. You watch them vanish down a lane where every doorway glows like a lantern. You reach a small square where a few vendors are still awake, selling leftover tamales, roasted insects, tiny bundles of dried flowers. One offers you a slice of roasted squash. You finally say yes. It is warm, a little sweet, soft as a sigh. You lean against a pillar and let it all settle inside you, the food, the night, the knowledge that this entire world pulses on even after the market closes. Historians always talk about temples and rulers and wars. But this is what stays. Someone sneezes, someone sings, someone knocks over a jug and curses softly. And you keep walking, because this city isn't finished with you yet. Section 11. Somehow, you've wandered your way back toward the market square. Not the bustling heart it was earlier, but its gentler nighttime self. The torches are mostly out, save for a few flickering flames that dance like lazy fireflies. The stalls are skeletons now, empty frames of wood and reed, standing like monuments to the day's commerce. It feels quieter here than it should. You're surrounded by echo snippets of earlier laughter, footsteps that aren't yours, the ghost of a flute still floating on the breeze. Or maybe your ears are just playing tricks on you. Long days tend to do that. But now you head toward one of the most important places in the entire market, a building most pass by without noticing. A simple structure, small and dark. No feathers, no carvings, no gods looming overhead. The storage house, your major historical fact. The Aztecs maintained massive warehouses in their markets and cities to store tribute, trade goods, weapons, food supplies, and textiles. The Comicac may have taught the mind, but these storage buildings fed the empire, and their managers? More powerful than they looked. You peek inside one of these buildings. It smells of dried maize and dust. Rows of clay jars sit in silence filled with beans, chilies, dried fish, powdered lime. Some are sealed with cork, others with wax. Each is marked with a symbol, a maize stalk, a jaguar claw, a turtle with a basket on its back. You run your hand across one of the jars. It's cool, too. The touch, with little ridges where the potter's fingers shaped it. Somewhere inside is 1,000 meals, or a single one eaten slowly over many days. Obscure tidbit. Some warehouses also stored ceremonial items, costumes, masks, musical instruments, so the community wouldn't have to recreate them every year. Practical, but also a little spooky. Imagine opening a pot, expecting salt, and finding a full jaguar headdress. You pass a hallway where bales of cotton are stacked neatly, wrapped in reed mats. Even in the dark, you can see they've been counted, measured, aligned with mathematical precision. You wonder who watches over them, or if anyone really has to. The whole place has that hushed reverence, like a library that smells more like beans than books. As you step out into the night again, the plaza looks more like a stage after the final curtain. A pair of guards walk slowly by, stone clubs slung across their backs, feathered cloaks hanging low. One yawns. The other doesn't bother pretending he's not bored. You sit on a step and breathe in the calm. The lake nearby is still, save for the occasional plop of a fish surfacing and regretting it. Am I cat actual or possibly spiritual? You're not sure. Slinks past your legs, pauses, and looks you up and down like it's sizing you for something. You whisper, "Not tonight." The cat blinks slowly, then disappears into the dark. The moon has climbed higher now, and with it, a gentle wind curls through the market's remains. You remember the street where the beans were sold earlier. It's just across from you now, empty, silent, but still thick with the memory of voices. You feel them all around you, every shell bracelet, every stone bowl, every smudged clay jar. It's all still here, waiting. And you? You're still not ready to sleep. Not yet. You rise again somehow, feet heavier now, but not unwilling. There's one last place you need to see before the night folds entirely over the city. You pass the last of the glowing rooftops, the final low-burning cooking fires, and turn toward a low temple nestled behind a grove of trees. Not a grand one, not one that needs visitors, but one built for Tlaloc, the rain god. Here's your major fact. Tlaloc wasn't just a deity for thunderstorms and good harvests. He was the water god. Life depended on him, so did death. Children who died young were sometimes buried with water jugs in hopes Tlaloc would care for them in the afterlife. And his temples often faced water, not heaven, not the sun, but the thing that actually fed the people. This temple is built of dark stone, its steps shallow and long. Moss clings to the edges, and vines reach lazily across its corners. You approach it without thinking, your hand trailing along the rough wall as you climb. At the top, there is no altar, no fire, just a flat stone bench and the sound of moving water below. You sit. A small bowl rests beside you, filled with river stones and petals from the marigold bundles. A toad is perched on the corner of the stone, doing its best impression of a statue. You try not to look at it. It tries not to blink. Obscure tidbit. Tlaloc's priests wore goggle-like eye decorations and blue face paint to resemble his rain-soaked visage. During certain rituals, they would whistle to the clouds small fluted calls that sounded like birdsong. They believed it could beckon the rain, or at least let the god know they were trying. You hum softly. Not a whistle, just a tone. Something you think might feel like rain if it were a sound. The toad approves. You think. The city stretches beneath you, its torchlights now tiny sparks, its plazas like breathing stones. You wonder how many people are still awake, how many still wander, how many sleep under woven mats, dreaming of gods or feathers or beans. Historians still argue whether small temples like this were publicly funded or maintained by neighborhood families. The answer seems obvious to you now. The community builds what it needs, whether for prayers or whispers, or simply a quiet place to sit at the edge of the night. You reach into the bowl of stones and pick one. It's smooth and cold. You place it gently back in a slightly different position. You're not sure why, but it feels respectful. Then you stand, stepping carefully down the mossy stairs. The toad remains. It probably owns the temple now. Back on the main path, you feel the first hush of fog rolling in from the lake. It curls around your legs, brushes your arms. Somewhere, a drum beats once slow, deliberate, final. You walk slowly now, your cloak pulled tighter around you, your breath visible in the air. The night has grown serious, even the frogs are whispering. And so, for a while, you simply follow. The sound of water back toward the soul of the city, toward the place where sleep finally begins. The fog gathers thick around your ankles now, like it's hurting you somewhere gently, insistently, like a very polite sheepdog with a degree in cloud formation. You're back near the chinampas, the floating gardens. In the moonlight, they look less like agriculture and more like fragments of green dreams floating just above the water. You can't quite tell where earth ends and lake begins. That's the magic of them. You step onto one of the narrow paths between the plots. It sinks slightly under your weight but holds firm. The scent of damp soil rises to greet you, wet, rich, and entirely uninterested in whether you think it's romantic. Major historical fact. These chinampas were a marvel of engineering. Rectangular plots built on shallow lake beds, reinforced with willow roots and layered with mud, reeds, and decomposing matter. They were so productive they could yield 7 harvests a year. 7. That's more than your favorite brunch place manages with its avocado toast. A cavocado toast. Of them navs, more than your favorite brunch place manages with its avocado toast. Yes, with its avocado toast. Young man rows by in a flat-bottomed canoe, half asleep, but somehow still steering straight. His cargo is a stack of reed baskets, each piled with flowers, marigolds, dahlias, and something that looks like it might argue with a bee. He nods to you. You nod back. We're all just passing through. Obscure tidbit. It was considered good luck to plant chili peppers on the corners of your chinampa. Not just because they were useful, but because it warded off misfortune, possibly by encouraging your enemies to rethink any close encounters. You crouch beside a row of maize stalks. Even in the night, their leaves sway slightly, whispering things that sound suspiciously like lullabies. One of them slaps your arm gently. You take the hint and move on. You pass a small hut with a woven door left half open. Inside, a woman is curled beside a basket of squash, softly snoring. A baby sleeps on her chest. A clay cup is balanced precariously on a windowsill, defying gravity or perhaps just exhausted from trying. Nearby, an older man tends a small fire, roasting ears of maize slowly over the embers. He's humming to himself something tuneless and ancient. You sit beside him without a word. He doesn't look up, but he hands you one of the ears. No salt, no butter. Just smoke and time. It tastes like memory. Historians still puzzle over how these Chinampa communities governed themselves. Did they report to the Central Kalpuli Council? Or were they more independent watery anarchists growing squash and ignoring orders? The records are murky, much like the lake. The old man coughs once, spits neatly into the reeds, then mutters, "Clouds are coming late this year." You nod. This seems like a profound statement, even if you don't fully understand it. You stay there a while, chewing, watching fog roll over the gardens like a slow ocean. The sky above is thick with stars. The only sound is the hush of oars in the distance and the occasional frog having an existential moment. Eventually, the fire dies low. The old man stands, creaking slightly, and walks into the dark. You finish your maze and do the same. Now the city feels truly asleep. Even the moon has grown weary, sinking lower, hiding behind a veil of mist like someone pulling the blanket a little higher. You find yourself on a wide promenade near the lake's edge, where the city meets the stars in still reflection. You can barely make out the towers and temples, now just silhouettes against the pale sky. But they're still there, watching, waiting. You sit on a stone bench, the kind worn smooth by centuries of conversation, weather, and tired feet. Your back finds the right spot. Your legs unfold just enough. And for a moment, everything is perfectly still. A pair of old women shuffle past with baskets of dried herbs. Their footsteps are soft, their laughter even softer. They nod to you, you nod back. Nodding seems to be the official language of this hour. Here's your major fact. Water management in Tenochtitlan was more than functional, it was sacred. The city had a complex system of dikes, canals, aqueducts, and reservoirs that balanced fresh and brackish water. Nezahualcóyotl, a poet king from the nearby city of Texcoco, designed a levee so precise that it kept the salt water out of the cities. Chinampas and drinking reservoirs, all without a single modern pipe. Obscure cultural tidbit. Public bathing was common, encouraged, and even ritualized. Steam baths, temazcals, were considered spiritually cleansing, not just hygienic. People bathed with herbs, prayers, and the occasional dramatic sigh. Aztec wellness, now with 20% more volcanic rock. Across the lake, a canoe drifts silently past. The paddler wears a feathered cloak and a broad hat, but you can't make out their face. The canoe glides past like a ghost or a very punctual ferry. Service. A small dog trots up beside you and curls at your feet. It's one of those hairless Xoloitzcuintli, warm to the touch and deeply judgmental. It doesn't ask to sit. It simply decides that your leg is the hill it will die on tonight. You're fine with that. The stars above are starting to thin, fading softly into the gauze of pre-dawn light. A few early birds stir in the trees. You hear a rustle in the reeds, a splash, and then silence again. Historians still debate how much of Tenochtitlan's rhythm came from religion and how much from water. Was it sacred calendar or irrigation schedule that set the pace of life? You suspect the answer is ... yes. The dog sighs. You sigh, and something in the city exhales with you, not loudly, not finely. Just enough, like a blanket shifting across a dreaming body. The sun is not up yet, but it's on its way. A soft silver light begins to spread across the water like spilled milk. Birds call once, then again. The frogs go quiet. The breeze, if it could speak, would whisper, almost. You rise from the bench and stretch your arms overhead. They ache gently, like they remember the weight of history. The dog trots ahead, tail high, as if it's decided you're now part of its morning patrol. You follow. The city is stirring. Smoke begins to rise from small cook fires. You smell maize dough again, and wood, and damp stone. You pass a woman sweeping her doorstep. She hums to herself, the same tune you heard in the market yesterday, or was it a dream? Your major fact. The Tlatelolco market reopens at dawn every day. It never truly closes. It simply rests, like a beast digesting before hungering again. Within hours, thousands will walk where you just wandered. The squash will return. The frogs will be sold. Again. And life will press forward. Obscure tidbit. Some vendors believe setting out a pinch of salt on their stall before sunrise would invite good trade. Others swore by whispering their prices to the maize. Everyone had a ritual. And none of them were wrong. You reach the market square again, just as the first canoe slides up to the dock. A man steps off, adjusts his baskets, and begins arranging them in neat rows chilies. Beans, flowers, more chilies. A boy yawns beside him. A dog sneezes. The wind carries the scent of roasting cacao. You sit on the same ledge from earlier, now warmed again by the first brush of sunlight. You don't need to speak. You just are, and that's enough. The sky shifts from silver to gold. Someone laughs. Someone haggles over a pot. The day begins. And so, too, does another market. A place where gods and squash share the same square footage. A place where history is folded into tortillas and carried home in baskets. A place where the past never left. It just started selling avocados. And now, gentle traveler, the story rests. The market behind you fades into soft candlelight and quiet stone. The boats still rock gently in the water, like lullabies drifting through time. The frogs have gone still. Even the dogs are asleep, tails twitching in slow dreams of tamales and ducks they almost caught. Let your breath slow now. Let the sounds of the city blur into silence. Let the pulse of the chinampas fade into the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You are not on a stone bench anymore. You are not holding a gourd, cup, or nodding at FISHMONGERS. You are resting beneath a sky that has watched generations drift beneath it. You are wrapped in the same hush that once cradled warriors and weavers, poets and priests, squash sellers and flute players. All of them lived. All of them slept. All of them dreamed. Tonight, you walked through their world, not as a visitor, not even as a guest, but as someone who belongs there, just for this moment. So close your eyes now, if you haven't already. Let the gentle wind carry away the last of your thoughts. Let the stars above Tenochtitlan hold you just a little longer. And if, tomorrow, you remember the sound of maize being ground beneath a stone, or the smell of cacao carried on mist, or the sight of a small frog making eye contact, let it make you smile, because somewhere, in the soft rhythm of the past, you were there, and you are still welcome. Sleep well.